Welcome to Around the Ozarks, a public affairs program brought to you by your local Midwest Family Broadcasting Station. Here's your host, Scott Meyer.
Good morning. I'm speaking on our inaugural Around the Ozarks show this morning with Chief of Police here in Springfield, Paul Williams.
Good to be here. Thanks,
Paul, you look good this morning, too.
Well, thank you.
Excellent. I had a chance to meet Paul when I first came to town about 6 months ago. And obviously, in today's world, there's a lot of things going on. And I thought it would be pertinent to invite Paul in and for you all to get to know him a little bit and what's going on in his department. And let's start off with, Paul, looking at your resume, if you will. You spent about 29 years in Tulsa and policing?
Yes. Came right out of college and moved to Oklahoma from Michigan and worked there almost 3 decades and got a real good breadth of experience in anything and everything in law enforcement before I came here to Springfield.
Not everybody goes to school in northern Michigan, Paul. I'm sure you're used to 100 inches of snow every winter. What brought you down south?
That's a good characterization. You must have some familiarity with the Upper Peninsula. But, Marquette, Michigan, on the shores of Lake Superior, lots of snow, lots of cold, outdoors. It was great. But what brought me here back in the early 80s in Michigan, and oil bust, recession, and not a lot of job opportunities. In fact, I grew up in Detroit. My dad and my grandfather were Detroit policemen. I always figured I would do that with my law enforcement career. And the year I graduated from college, Detroit laid off over 1,000 police officers.
Sure. What year was that?
Graduated in 81. So 79, 80 is when they were doing all the layoffs there.
Okay.
Into 81. So good advice from my dad. He said, go south and west. Find a job, but get out of this part of the country and go make something of yourself.
Well, I was going to ask you about why police work. Do you have siblings, and are they in the police field as well?
I have a sister, and I have 3 stepsisters. None of them are in law enforcement. Don't have any cousins in law enforcement. But as I mentioned, my dad and my grandfather both retired after 25 years in policing.
So you kind of felt it was a duty? 3rd
generation. I tell you, it's in my blood. It's what I want to do since I was old enough to figure out what I want to do, which is probably about age 5. I think my dad said the first time I said I want to be a policeman. And so started out as that youthful, everybody's got, want to be a policeman, a fireman, or some kind of superhero. And it just stuck with me and never really wanted to do anything else.
Excellent. Chief Paul Williams is my guest this morning, Chief of Police here in Springfield. 29 years in Tulsa. It says you retired.
I did.
And you're here in Springfield as chief. I don't understand.
Well, when you start out in a profession at age 20, which I did, so retire or potentially retire before age 50, I got another 50 years to go, so I got to do something else. So it's what I know. It's what I know best, and I wanted to continue in law enforcement. And retired as a major, had been in consideration for the chief's job there a couple times, and decided that's what I wanted to do, which was lead a department and be the person in charge, the one that where the buck stops, if you will, and started looking around the country for a good fit for me and my family, and ended up here in Springfield.
There is an elephant in the room, and it's neither one of us. I don't want to give you that feeling. But one can't help but at least ask the question with what happened in Dallas last week. What are your thoughts?
As I sat there watching it unfold, and I've shared this a couple times with folks. First, it's shocked that did that really happen, and then as the reports came in, and it became much worse than even an officer or 2 officers being killed, and then the news that it was literally targeting of police officers by a member of the public for absolutely no other reason than that they were police officers. Mm-hmm. Then that shock turns to horror and finally to anger. And then in my case, I kind of worked all the way through the grief process in 12 hours to the resolve and determination of, this is what we do. This is why we do what we do, to stand between people like that who are absolutely evil and the other 99.9% of the public, and determination that I was never more proud to put on a uniform and a badge than that next morning and come to work and represent the department, be the head of the department and represent my officers, but also be that face to the community of we're here, we're not going away, and we are always going to be here and always be those men and women that step between you and people like that.
As chief and someone who's been in law enforcement now over 30 years, you've got a lot of young officers on your staff, I would presume, and given that, what do you tell them?
It's and young is right. As I've progressed, I get to the point where
everybody's young.
Everybody's younger than I am, and so I try to share that breadth of experience and what I've been through, but also acknowledge this may be the first time they've ever experienced anything like that or been exposed to something like that while they're serving in this role. And so it's one, it's being supportive and letting them know that that you do have the support from above. I think that's important. Two is making sure they're aware that, man, we deal with the worst of society, and a lot of times you can get pretty jaded in a profession like this when that's all you deal with. And making sure they're aware that the vast majority of citizens support them, and that's why we do what we do. And so don't get caught up in that us versus them mentality, which can be very easy to do if you think everybody's against you. So being positive, being supportive, and making sure that they continue to stay engaged in the community in many ways, not just at work. I encourage my officers to, have a life outside of here. Don't get caught up into you're just hanging around other cops all the time. And, whether you're married or not, whether you have kids or not, you have family, stay connected to your family, have relationships outside here, and go do other things and share those experiences in other ways while, realizing that what we do is very unique. And it's not for everybody, and it is something special. And people are gonna ask you about that, and you need to be able to respond to that. But then at some point, you just step back and accept those well wishes. I got stopped on the way over here, stopped a couple different places, and a gentleman came out and said, "Man, I just want to thank you for what you do and let you know I pray for you every day."
That's got to make you feel good.
When you hear that, and the officers hear that too, I get that when something horrific like that happens. It happened in Dallas last week. The outpouring of support from citizens, whether it's dropping cookies and dinner by the station, or just stopping somebody as they're filling up their tank with gas, or you're in a restaurant and somebody comes over and wants to thank you for your service. Those little shows of support are what keep people going. And I tell officers, man, acknowledge those, accept those, be gracious when you do so, and share your thanks back for that support that we get.
We're talking this morning with Springfield Police Chief Paul Williams. Paul, there's a lot of talk of where departments go from here. Where do you see policing go from here? As far as local police departments, there's talk of federalizing this and bringing and involving the federal government more and more in local police departments. What are your thoughts about that?
Policing in America is a unique culture. For those who don't realize, we are the only country in the world that has local police agencies. Every other country you look at has national police force in some way, shape, or form, and they may have some local officers or local constabulary, but it's driven by a national policing office or headquarters, and we're unique in that regard, and that's because we're founded on that premise of local control. We're a union of states, and then within those states we have counties and cities, and everybody wants to be in charge of their own thing and have their say in what goes on where they live. So from that aspect, that's not going to change. I don't see that ever change. That's what we're founded on. So with that, though, comes the issues that come with having 18,000 law enforcement agencies, and everybody does things a little bit different. So as far as national standards, and we're an accredited agency, and that's adhering to some national standards and best practice. I think that is absolutely essential to let the public know that, man, we do have outside folks coming in and seeing how we do, make sure we're doing things right. Not enough agencies do that. I would certainly, I support agencies doing that. But as far as giving up that local control to a federal agency, we work very well with our federal partners, state partners, but I don't think the citizens want that. Really. And I remind people this all the time. What we do in policing is not on our own. It's an extension of what the citizens want and expect from us. And our citizens, our community, the public will dictate how they want us to do that. And our job is to make sure we listen to that and don't forget that. So I think we need to make sure that dialogue continues and maybe is enhanced, or maybe it's gotten away in some communities. And everybody on all sides of that issue, remember that we're really all in it together against that small percentage of evil out there. The police can't do it alone. I preach that all the time. The public would not be able to enjoy what we enjoy without the protection of the police. So we really got to be in it together.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned having your officers' backs and certainly having the city support you and what your department does. But again, from last weekend's trouble in Dallas, along comes the governor of Minnesota basically calling out his officers and saying that he doesn't really have their backs.
That is a disheartening and a discouraging thing to hear in police work, not just for officers who might be there, but anywhere. And probably the most disappointing thing I hear is from public officials, elected officials, who feel the need to come out and make statements about something they know nothing about, or about an incident they don't have all the facts about. And to me, that does exactly the opposite of what they may be trying to do. I'm sure someone may be trying to express what he or she thinks is the opinion of most and bring people together. It does the opposite. It inflames people. It causes a divisiveness and gets people to pick sides and take opinions when we're still waiting for the facts. You know, as a police chief, I get reports every day on things that have occurred, and I may have a personal opinion on where I think that's going to go. As an investigator, I formed opinions and I sought out facts, but you know what? I never presented anything to the prosecutor, and as a chief, you'll never hear me offer an opinion without a review of the facts and a pretty good, clear understanding of what I thought transpired before I come out and make a public comment. And I wish certainly our elected officials, who should be held accountable, would wait to do that rather than spouting off stuff that does nothing but harm people in general.
Well, you certainly don't want to see police work politicized.
Yeah, it goes back to what I said earlier about the police being an extension of the public.
Right.
You know, sometimes I think people, it's the police, it's them. And officers sometimes think it's them, the citizens, but really it's all us. We're all in it together. And we wouldn't be able to do what we do with the authority and the power and the responsibility we have if the citizens, the public, our communities didn't say, we want you to do this. We're going to give you this authority, this responsibility, this power to go do that, to keep all of us safe. And if the public says they don't want that, they can simply take that away. But if they do that and the police go away, then the general public needs to be prepared to step in and do what the police have been doing.
Sure. This morning, our guest is Chief of Police here in Springfield, Paul Williams. Paul, what are your thoughts when it comes to all the focus now on body cameras? Does the department have them? Do you support them? Is it something that's going to be good or bad? Is it just in general, what are your thoughts about that?
Body cameras in particular and in technology in general. I always support increases in technology, anything to help us do our job and make our job better. To answer a specific question, we don't have them in Springfield yet. Actually been looking at them for over 4 years. We've tested various models and manufacturers' versions throughout the years. Haven't come up with one that fits everything we want, both for functionality, cost, and the availability of funds to go do that. With the advent of the current models, which are much better, what they present in forms of field of vision and view is much better. It's enhanced. They're cheaper than they ever have been, but the storage needed to maintain those and make sure you have records and you're recording and keeping everything you need to is increased exponentially. And then here in Missouri, we're a very transparent, open state. We have very open sunshine laws. And so I've always had a concern about if we start recording all these encounters, what's to keep you from coming in requesting a copy of a tape of an encounter between an officer and a neighbor, a friend, just a general citizen. So I've been somewhat reluctant to just jump on the bandwagon and move forward without answering all those questions. It goes back to my statement earlier about having all the facts and a clear sense of where I want to go. So not opposed to them. I would love to have them. I think they would do more to enhance the public's understanding of what we do and keep officers safe and out of trouble than any other technological advance we've had. We saw that with car cameras. Got here 6 years ago. We had an antiquated in-car video system that was in some cars. And through some discussions with community members, particularly NAACP, and review of some of our complaints, I made the commitment to equip all of our patrol cars with digital in-car cameras. So we've done that and have had those for about the last 5 years. And that has gone a long way towards recording traffic stops and resolving disputes between officers and citizens and complaints on a regular basis because you have that video evidence. So I see body cameras as an extension of that, but I caution people it is not the be-all, end-all of if you have a body camera, therefore everybody will know exactly what happens because I know the field of view and what's recorded is different than what the mind's eye sees. And, so I look at it as a great tool, an enhancement for investigations, but certainly not if we have a body camera, then we don't have to do anything else.
Yeah, no, I can see that. That's sometimes it opens up a real Pandora's box. Chief, I was hoping the audience would also get to know Paul Williams a little bit. Why don't you talk about your favorite subject, your family? Sure.
Married to my wonderful wife for almost 20 years now. Have 3 kids.
She'll hear that,
I know.
That's a good thing.
I hope so. And 3 kids, 1 grandchild. My kids are spaced out pretty good. I have a college graduate, a high school graduate getting ready to go into college, and one in middle school getting ready to go into high school. So 2 girls and a boy. My wife is a retired credit union president and CEO, so she gets to manage the household and all the income and all the bills and everything else.
Like that.
And I get to concentrate on work. And when we moved here, that was a main consideration, was she was able to retire and stay home and take care of the kids and the household.
Sure.
And I can't thank her enough. That affords me the freedom to do what I do, which is do things like this outside of my normal, 8 to 5, kind of available 24/7 to folks. And I think that's a good thing. But she keeps the home fires burning very well.
As busy as you are, we met through some charity work.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you talk about why you're so involved in charity work locally?
I think part of it comes with what I do. I think policing is a public service profession, but I want to give back to the community in other ways. Just because I already do a public service job doesn't mean that 40, 50, 60 hours is enough. So whether that's right or wrong, I think I need to be able to give back in other ways. And I also know there's kind of a selfish component here. All right, if I'm involved in charity work to make lives better for people and do things to help kids and people in need, that it's going to come back and require less of a police presence sometimes than what we do. And then the bottom line is I grew up in a family environment that was always about giving back. And that's what I think everyone should be doing. And I want to set the example for my community as the chief of police, but also my officers. We have a huge percentage of officers who are involved in outside activities, charitable things as well. And then really I think people need to see police officers outside of the uniform. So I try to involve myself in a variety of causes I have throughout the years. United Way, Special Olympics, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Child Advocacy Center, just to name a few things that may or may not impact my job, but certainly impact the community. And it makes me feel good. And it's not just about writing a check. I think people certainly we need financial donations for all these charitable things, but it comes back to that very biblical tenet of give of your time, talents, and treasures. And I think I've been blessed with all 3 of those things. So I want to give back in every way I can to help my community.
You're listening to Around the Ozarks this morning. My name is Scott Meyer. We're here with Chief of Police Paul Williams, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Grab your tutus and tiaras. The Diva Dash 5K and Little Princess Girls Run is returning to Nixa on August 27th at 8 a.m. in Macaulay Park. This fun, family-oriented 5K benefits the Child Advocacy Center, an organization that provides young victims of abuse with a safe place to share their stories. To find out more about the Diva Dash 5K and Little Princess Girls Run, visit diva-5k.com.
Welcome back to Around the Ozarks. My name is Scott Meyer, and I'm here with our Chief of Police here in Springfield, Paul Williams. And we've gotten to know Paul a little bit, but I've got to ask you about going back to your department for a minute. Given you're in charge, how does it differ, do you think, from, say, even your department back in Tulsa? What makes this one special, or what makes it different? What have you done that makes it different?
Well, I talked earlier about how many police departments there are in the United States, and everyone's a little bit different. And so I think most of us think we're the best. And if you don't, there's a problem. And I think there's a lot of good departments out there, and I think I worked at a very good department. But I like to think Springfield was a good department that I was able to come in, and with the support and help of everyone in that agency, as well as those that in city government and the public we serve, taking that to another level, being a great police department. I said this when I got here. My predecessor, Lynn Rowe, laid great groundwork for me. When I was looking to be chief somewhere, I was looking around the country, your application and an interview process, and I said, they're picking me just like I'm picking them. But I was looking for a place that I didn't really have to come in and fix. Mm-hmm. After 30 years, it wasn't really what I was looking for, of some place that was really messed up that you needed to come in and you were going to look great because it was going to be better when you left it. I was really looking for a place that was already at a pretty good level that I could maybe take to a higher level, and also a place that embraced their police department, and a place that the city around it and the community around it and afforded me opportunity to finish raising a family. When I came here, I still had a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old at home, and not looking to move place to place every 3 or 4 years, but really put down roots again and finish raising the family and extend my career. So both things, the family environment and then work. So and I think I'm able to do that. We've made some great progress here, increasing staffing, increasing the availability of equipment and resources, restructuring and really having an impact on the things we're supposed to have an impact on the community, crime and engagement, and making sure that the community realizes that we're part of them. So I like to think that's under my direction, that's under my leadership, and I've kind of moved us in that direction and been able to really influence the folks around me to jump on board and keep moving forward. Not someone that stands on his laurels or is complacent. And so been here 6 years. It's flown by. It really has. And I'm really looking forward to the next 6, 10, 15, however long I'm going to be.
There you go. I think we both look forward to that. We've spent a lot of time talking about a difficult situation last weekend. I want to hear a great story. Can you tell me a really good Paul Williams story in policing that I guess not only makes you proud, but was just something that should make all officers proud, or even the community proud of something that the police have done or that you've done while being in police work?
I could sit here all day and tell what we call war stories about arrests or investigations.
But is there a situation where a citizen really was really helped out by one of your officers, where it even kind of blew you away that person took the time to help that citizen and make a difference?
This is going to sound, and I'm not avoiding your question, Scott. It's just those things happen on a daily basis. I get daily notes from people, everything from the officers who stopped to a child was kind of looking kind of apprehensive, and the officer stops and drops to a knee and talks to that boy or girl and gives them a little sticker badge, and then the mom writes a note saying, "Oh my gosh, that you just changed my child's whole perception on policing." I did that a couple years ago at a MLK parade here in town, and this little boy had been following me and one of my captains around, and his mom comes up and says, "I was wondering if you could talk to my son. He's kind of scared of police in general," and did that, dropped to a knee and talked to him a little bit, and then felt, unfortunately, I didn't have a sticker or a badge with me. And so I went back to the office and put together a care package and actually sent it to him. And I get pictures from the mom with him wearing, what I'd sent and carrying stuff around.
That's a good police story.
So, all right, see, now you talked me right into it.
It wasn't that hard.
Those kinds of things are the things that people, I think, don't realize go on. Now, we do a much better job now of telling our story. Social media, for all of its negatives, that's a very positive. We get to communicate directly with the public we serve. We share these stories, and they can share things with us. And I think the people would be amazed at the interaction we have with citizens. And those stories, those two little things I just shared, happen on a regular daily basis. It has absolutely nothing to do with putting bad guys in jail or driving cars fast or shooting guns or anything like that. It is just interaction with the public. And there's other stories like that. I'd tell you a horrible incident that showed the professionalism and the training and the education and everything we have, and it kind of all coming together. Haley Owens a couple years ago, a horrific kidnapping and rape and murder of a young child here in town. The whole community rallied around that, and the officers involved, some of who still struggle with those experiences, to solve the case, if you will, and make an arrest. And fortunately, after something horrible had happened, but people to realize that, man, we step in and fix what we can in those things, and we do that as being part of the community and really being affected by those things, but are able to step up and do our job and do the best we can to resolve situations like that. And for me personally, that I said this when it happened, the hardest thing I've ever had to do in policing. I've done a lot of things in 35 years, and the hardest thing I ever had to do was address the community at the conclusion of that incident and talk about what had happened, and at the same time trying to kind of brag on my officers for the fantastic work they did to solve that case and find that evil person and move towards bringing him to justice.
Well, let's finish up on a light note. What's your favorite TV show?
Oh, man, this is going to be kind of cliche, but as a kid, it was Adam 12. And, and now, believe it or not, man, Blue Bloods. I'll sit on a Friday night and so
you live it and you watch it.
Man, yep. So lots of other things. In my family, I watch a bunch of stuff together. Yeah. On a lighter note, Modern Family is probably the favorite for the family to sit around and watch and laugh at. But my wife kind of laughs at me saying, you think you're Tom Selleck, as a commissioner sometimes when I'm telling her
I can
why
kind of see that, Paul.
Thanks.
How about music on the radio? If we went into your car right now and turned on the radio, what would we hear?
Man, am I by myself or am I with my wife and kids?
With you. This is about you. This is all about you today.
I can pretty much listen to anything, although top 40 pop music, modern music, I really try to stay connected with what my kids are doing. But, man, I'm an old-time rock and roll 70s classic and some country jams on the backside. So,
all righty. There's no right answer. I mean, that's
I'm from Detroit, man, so Bob
Seger. There you go.
It's Bob Seger. All right, there you go.
Alice
if Cooper. I had to pick.
How about favorite movie?
I've watched so many movies with my kids now, and modern movies. I can think back to watching movies with my mom and dad, and then watching movies with my kids now. So it's the gamut. I don't know. You stumped me, man. I can't pull one. It's not like an easy Bob Seger reference for music.
Well, there you go. I didn't mean to stump you, but that means you just like movies in general, right?
Movies in general, yeah.
Well, I want to take the time to thank you now for coming in this morning. Hopefully you've had a chance to let folks in town know a little bit more about you and what makes you tick and your department tick. Anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to throw out before we wind things up?
I tell you, Scott, didn't know what to expect when I came in today. Usually this is an interview about the department. You kind of weaved a bunch of stuff in there, so I appreciate the opportunity to brag on my folks a little bit and tell a little bit about me without getting way too personal, and made me think. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Excellent. Chief of Police Paul Williams here in the city of Springfield. Thanks again, Paul. Welcome to Around the Ozarks. I'm Scott Meyer, and I'm joined with two new guests this morning, Toby Smith and Lee Hart. And Toby, why don't you let our audience know why you're here and what we're going to talk about?
Well, that's right. On August 6th, we're going to have a poker run, and this is going to be benefiting the Joey Benjamin family. Many around the Ozarks know him as Lego Man. This will be our 5th annual Hearts Run. We've done this for 5 years now, trying to focus on members of law enforcement and in our community.
You mentioned it's about Joey Benjamin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who Joey Benjamin is?
Joey's a young man that has developed a rare form of cancer, and what it is, it affects the connective tissue. It's referred to as ERMS. Joey's family is obviously struggling with taking care of him and getting him the help he needs, which I'm glad to say that he is receiving care. We're doing the ride to benefit that family, try to take some of the stress off of what they're going through and to help them in this time.
I see you brought Lee Hart, and the foundation is called the Hart Foundation. Lee, what is the Hart Foundation?
The Hart Foundation was actually started 4 years ago. I had a motorcycle accident. It was a pretty bad accident, and obviously I wasn't able to work due to my injury, so my coworkers put together a benefit to help me pay my bills, and we've kind of been doing, we typically help law enforcement or the families, so we've been doing benefits ever since. This will be our 5th one.
Excellent. Toby, tell our listeners one more time, how can they get involved in the run itself?
Well, the poker run is going to be held on August 6th. We're going to have it at Bears on South Campbell, which is the 3821 South Campbell. Registration is going to open at 9, and kickstands up are going to be 10:30. We've got 5 stops throughout the Ozarks, and it's going to be around Greene County. The poker run, the funds are going to be going to benefit the Joey Benjamin family. And this year, the 5th annual Hearts Run is going to be the Run for Lego Man.
If folks don't ride, how else can they make some funds available for this for the cause?
Everybody's welcome to come out. We are going to have some T-shirts this year. At Hearts Run, we're traditionally known for having the Hearts Run T-shirts. If you'd like to get a T-shirt, you're welcome to message us on our Facebook page, which is the Hearts Run on Facebook. We have an event created. Of course, feel free to get in touch with us through that, and we'd be happy to see everybody coming out, whether or not they're riding their motorcycle on the poker run.
Just because Hart is spelled many different ways, Lee, why don't you help everybody out? How do you spell Hart? Is it Hearts or Hart?
It's the Hart Foundation. It's HART, and just foundation.
Again, my guests this morning are Toby Smith and Lee Hart. You're listening to Around the Ozarks. My name is Scott Meyer. To wrap this up, fellas, what would you like to see come out of this poker run?
We'd like to see a large group. In any kind of poker run in this area, the motorcycle community really pulls together. Every run that we've done, we've seen a large gathering, and every time that we've done this as a fundraiser, the community coming out and the spirit and the spirit of the charity and just having everybody together makes a world of difference. The people that we've been fortunate enough to help, appreciate seeing everybody take part in this.
Excellent. We'll end it on that. Thanks for joining us on this morning's inaugural Around the Ozarks program. You'll hear it every Sunday morning between 6 and 6:30 on each of our Midwest Family Broadcasting radio stations. I want to extend a special thanks to my guests this morning, Chief of Police Paul Williams here in Springfield, and our other guests this morning representing the Hearts Run and Heart Foundation, Toby Smith and Lee Hart, who are doing a vigilant effort on raising funds for young Joey Benjamin, who's suffering from a terrible cancer issue.
Thank you for joining us for Around the Ozarks, a public affairs program brought to you by your local Midwest Family Broadcasting Station. Listen again next Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Find this and all other segments of Around the Ozarks at mwfmarketing.fm.